Girl, what you doing here?
What am I doing here? What are you doing here?
I think we've been up to something.
We've been working on something.
What we been working on?
We created a podcast.
Hey, this is Catching Vibes, where we do more than just catch babies. I am Kaci, your home birth midwife.
And I'm Lenika, your hospital midwife. So in this episode, we're going to talk about hospital births with a midwife versus home birth deliveries with a midwife.
What topic how we want to start this off?
Okay, so let's talk about the key differences.
Okay, let's go.
Okay.
I'm at home.
Obviously.
Well, actually, let's do this. Let's go ahead and educate people as well. The different places that you can deliver babies.
Yes.
So, of course, you can do it at the hospital. I am home birth, but there's also birthing center where I feel like most people think that's the in-between between us two.
Right.
So, yeah, different places that you can go to.
So it doesn't have to be just one. You can pick between the three depending on your situation.
Yeah, and where you live at, because some places don't have birthing centers. Of course, we're in Georgia, and we have two, but the main one is Atlanta Birthing Center, and that's it.
Yeah,
and
we have two.
And it also depends on if you want to have a water birth or not.
Correct. Not
Because
all
there's
hospitals do water births. Yep.
And birthing centers will, but also with, it's a lot. We just gonna dive right into it,
Okay.
because even with the birthing centers, a lot of them will not do VBACs. A lot of them won't do
only do
multiples.
low risk. Yep.
Yeah.
So a lot of people risk out of home birthing centers. Yep.
And then that's where they kind of want to lean more towards home birth than opposing to having a hospital birth, because.
Okay, so then that question or that topic leads to this question then. Do you ever risk anybody out of home birth?
Yeah.
Okay, so who can't have a home birth?
Ooh. So I will say we are very, 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 very low risk. Like, we don't want any type of complications. But I will say some providers say that these clients might be high risk, but to us they're not. So for example, it might be a VBAC mom.
Okay.
Or a mom that is delivering, I'll just say twins. I don't want to say I don't want to say they have triplets or more than that, because it gets a little tricky there.
Yeah.
But so those that we would risk out, of course, would be maybe gestation, diabetes. We got to monitor that.
Yeah.
Definitely hypertension. So that is one of our major ones, signs of preeclampsia. But mainly, if you're coming to us, it's because you are a good candidate for a home birth.
Okay.
A lot of first-time moms, for sure. But it's just really building based off of your history.
Okay, that's good to know. But I think some people think, well, I'm going to just have a baby at home, and they may have a lot going on and it's perfectly safe, but to know that there are parameters, that is comforting. Especially because sometimes I feel like home birth midwives get a bad rep. And it's in my world anyway.
Yes. Oh, don't worry. We're going to talk about that for sure. But I will say that that's the main reason why you want to do your research on what is going to be best for you and your baby. That's the main thing. But it also determines on your support system too. Because what if you want a home birth, but your husband is like completely scared, but his main thought is like, the house is going to be nasty. Like, that's most of the dads.
I've had a lot of patients. Well, I've had it where like the mom's like really like, I'm having a home birth, and the dad's like, no, we're going to be in that parking lot at the hospital waiting for they are on two different pages.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of different pages when it comes to the birth.
Have you transferred anybody?
So I kind of might need to give a little bit background about like where I came, like my whole, like how it kind of got started in a sense.
Okay.
But I know we're going to have an episode on that, but I'll say it really quick.
Okay.
Right. So started off with doula work. Doula work led me into traditional midwifery.
Okay.
And then traditional midwifery, majorly working with a lot of grand midwives and some CPMs as a doula, but still learning student midwife in traditional. I was going to a few births as a doula, but it was COVID time.
Okay.
And you couldn't go to the hospital.
Right.
So in my mind, still being a doula, but still understanding the medical side of midwifery, when I stepped into it, I knew I was kind of like, oh, I need to pay attention to this.
Yeah.
And there was a mom that was a VBAC, and I was like, yeah, no, I know you probably really wanted this.
Yeah.
Unassistedly.
Yeah.
But no, you really need to go.
Yeah.
But technically, she was gonna go anyway. But we were supposed to labor as long as possible. And I was like, this would have been a major transfer.
Yeah.
And then I had to fire a client that ended up being a transfer.
Okay.
Yeah, she was not listening to no one. Definitely signs of preeclampsia.
Yeah.
Like major signs of preeclampsia.
Yeah.
She needed to go and get induced. Went to go get induced. Signed out to not stay because she was not progressing. Of course, you're not ready.
Yeah.
It was very hard, but I had to send her that paper. Like, I'm sorry, I cannot. I can't. If you're not gonna listen to me, and you're risking yourself and your baby.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was difficult, but she was so sweet. Her history was a lot, so I don't want to say too much. But I know if she listens, she will understand. Honestly, but she did have a history where she had a stillbirth. Yeah. And it was at home.
A lot of times when we get, I don't want to say difficult patients, but patients who are a little more adamant about certain recommendations is because of something that's happened.
Yeah. So this was really tough for me because I was just like, you've already had a home birth. But it was a stillbirth, but they knew nothing. Her partner knew nothing. So I knew at this time it was kind of like, I have to educate you. But one, I will say, didn't really have the funds at that moment to afford, but she knew she was doing it. So I was like, I cannot risk nothing with me, but I want to be the one that can teach you everything you need to know. So like, we went through classes because she's like, I'm not going to the hospital. That's fine, but let me go ahead and let's do Zooms. Let's do this. Semi-prenatals because they couldn't go. It was just crazy. But anyway, to make it short, I ended up having a long conversation with her. I had to type in ChatGPT stuff like, girl, this is the reason why. This is why you should not. Like, it was a lot, but very professional, but very stern. Like, I started having anxiety because I'm so worried, and I was like, I can't be more worried about you than you are for yourself. Yeah. But she ended up calling me, and I was like, I think this baby is coming. Yeah. And she FaceTimed me, and she was having the baby on the toilet.
Oh.
So she did end up successfully having the baby.
At home?
Dad went to the store to go get snacks, but then to go back to the hospital and get induced. So she was like, you know what, you're right. Like, this is what I need to do. So I'm like, good. Okay, well, call me when the baby's here. When you get to the hospital, that part. And then, she called me, think the baby came, and she propped me up on FaceTime, and I'm like, what? And she's like, I think the baby just fell in the toilet.
Oh, my God.
And, so, I mean, that was a tough one.
Well, meanwhile, in hospital births, I mean, we take everybody.
And that's the reason why y'all are here, because everyone cannot have a home birth. Everyone cannot have a birthing center birth. So we need y'all.
We do, but it is a bad rep we got. So let's talk about it. So hospital births, obviously, is pretty standard. Everybody comes in. For the most part, you get monitored. You either go into labor on your own or interventions are started, right? And now I feel like in recent times, it's more people are starting to be more vocal on like, I don't want a hospital birth, but there are a lot of people, especially in today's society, that are risking out. They're not low risk anymore. And so their choice is a hospital because of the things that they have going on, like gestational diabetes and hypertension and the rise of preeclampsia that we're seeing. So dealing with that, people who don't really necessarily want to be in the hospital, but they need to medically to have their babies, definitely something in the midwifery world that I think needs to be addressed. Because I feel like it's like a big rift between us, right?
Yeah.
Not
and
us.
It shouldn't be,
like, we love each other.
Yes, definitely.
But like in our worlds, like home birth versus hospital. So,
but you want to know what? It's that with all midwives. Like even me being a home birth midwives, the certified nurse midwives that are home birth, the CPMs that are home birth, the traditional that are home birth. Like, it's been hard out here for everyone to be coming together. We're gonna definitely have to do a episode on the policy, the laws that's happening with just all midwives. But it should not be. So I have a question for you.
Okay.
So, because I know we get a bad rep when there is a birth, that is a transfer, and it's an emergency. Yeah. So have you had one of those births where, like, a midwife had a transfer to you and it was really bad and you were just like, well, why was she having a home birth anyway? I feel like you do have a different perspective of home birth, but
most of the transfers I get are the patient's exhausted.
Yeah.
They've been pushing for like 3 days, or they've been in labor for 3 days. I did get
pushing
one.
for 3 days is wild.
So yeah, my wild story is someone was pushing for, and I don't think it was 3 days. I think she was in labor for 3 days, but she had been pushing, quote unquote, pushing for a day. But when she got to us, she was like 6 centimeters, and I was like, "What were y'all doing?"
Yeah.
Her water had been broken for about 3 days.
But was she with a midwife?
So the person didn't show their face. So I don't know. But her water had been broken for like 3 days. She ended up with an infection. She declined antibiotics. It was, and because she was a home birth because she didn't want to be in a hospital. She didn't want hospital interventions and things like that. So when she came in, it was almost like we were at war automatically because it was like, I'm trying to tell you, you have an infection. I need to treat you. And she's like, no, I don't want no antibiotics. And then she's like, I just came from pain medicine. And I'm like, okay, but you're not progressing. That's why you've been in labor for 3 days. And I don't think you're not 10 centimeters, sweetie. Like, so we need to do something because we don't need things to get worse. So yeah, when it comes into situations like that, it's like, was the patient educated? What were y'all doing? Like, and I know it's not like all of the home birth midwives.
Right.
So I don't ever like categorize it.
Right, right.
It's a home birth, like, but I do have certain moments where I'm like, who were you with?
And see, I think that's what is giving the midwives a bad rep because they're actually not midwives.
Yeah, but I didn't know that at first either.
So
I'm still learning all the different.
I was just about to say maybe some more educational tips
Yeah.
are the midwives versus doula. Like, what is
Yes.
that true role?
There is a high misconception. A lot of people out here don't know the difference. Like patients don't know the difference between
a
doulas
midwife and doula.
Yeah.
So I'll say doulas, and I start off as a doula, so I'll go ahead and express that. Your doula role is non-medical.
Yeah.
Nothing whatsoever.
Supportive.
Very much. But if it does come down to medical, it's only the educational part of it.
Okay. Yeah.
So your doula role is mainly to support the mom in the education, emotional, physical, depending, and spiritual realm.
Yeah.
Like, that's what their goal is. I'll say the medical will only come in if that mom was talking to their OB or their midwife and they had no idea because the midwife or the OB was talking non-layman's terms.
Right.
So the doula was like, oh, no, this is what it means. They're not diagnosing. They're just saying like, oh, but here are some options that you can do.
Yeah.
They may not, give those options.
Yeah.
But I feel like in the hospital now, the doulas are not being doulas.
They are not being doulas, and that's when the nurses start getting really aggressive. Because I've definitely heard of the fight between the doulas in the hospital. The nurses get aggressive, and some of the providers, like I've had some times where I'm like, wait a minute, and it's because like you said, they're not being doulas. Like I'll come in and I'll explain everything, and the mom will look straight at the doula and be like, so what should I do? And I'm like,
every time, but so. I have to think. They do that to me, and I'd be like, "Why y'all be looking at me?" But then I'll be like, "So we talked about this," and I'm like, "Can you give us a minute?" Because once again, as a doula, and I'm playing a doula right now, but baby, I'm a midwife. Okay, like I'm a midwife, but we have to give them like the understandings of letting them know. I tell them all the time, I don't speak for you. I'm here to help advocate, but I'm like, I'm not saying this for you, but me. I will say I'm a different doula. Like the way that I, because I have a mentorship program, so the way that I teach my doulas, mentees are, when you go into the hospital, we are coming to help everyone. So when I come in, I come with a big smile on my face, but it's so funny because sometimes I'll step in and they're like, she got a doula. And I'm like, dang, it sucks that
it's just
I'm
that
actually
reputation. It's just a word. Sometimes they just hear the word doula and be like, oh.
Yeah, but now a lot of them, girl, they start recommending me. They were like, oh my gosh, what's your name? What's your website? Like, oh my God, let me do that because I'm helpful. Like, oh no, girl, I already know what a towel is. Don't worry. Let me help you. You don't got to call another nurse in here, girl. I can help you do it. But some was like, no, we have to do it. And I was just like, you don't. Like, back to midwives being in the hospital. Like, I don't know if I can do it for certain reasons for that.
We'll get to that. That'll be my next question.
Okay.
But yeah, so with the doulas, yeah, they're supposed to be advocates, and I definitely don't mind like stepping away so you can talk to your doula, things like that. But it's when they are basically like, well, you know, there's no trust, and I'm not asking, and I know what the world is like, right? You know, so I'm not asking for automatic trust the moment someone like sees you, but it's almost as if like, no, I don't trust nothing you're saying. My doula said this is what we're going to do. Like, I've had some people come in and be like, my doula said we should start off with this, and this. And I'm like, those are options, but can I explain your situation that you have right now? Because it could be a different situation that you have before you had those options presented to you.
Right.
So, yeah, definitely a misconception. But your midwives deliver the babies.
Your midwife delivers your baby. So just kind of going back to that, like, when you like who was it?
Yeah.
These doulas are playing those roles of midwives, and I feel like doula is such a major trend now that they're thinking that, oh, you could do all of this and this and mainly it's a money hunger game. Like, no, you have to be in this field to really love it. So
baby, you gotta work. Don't be paying these people they not doing.
And you don't know. I'm like, and this is for the parents, the moms that are listening. Like, you have to do your own research. You just can't go online and just see someone doing so good at what they're doing, and then you're not asking the proper questions. Like, that's been the issue. Like, no, like, oh no, she's gonna be my doula, and I'm like, oh well, who's your midwife? She's like, no, we're not having a midwife. Okay. So let's talk about that. Yeah. And then I get some emails and it'll be like, hey, I want to know if I can have you for a doula for my home birth. And then we'll get in a consultation and then we'll talk and they're like, oh, I don't know the difference. And I'm like, perfect. But I got you on the phone. Let's talk about that. And they're like, oh, we can't afford you. Okay. Understandable. Yeah. But you have to make those choices. Yeah. How much did you spend for your baby shower?
For my baby shower?
No, I'm just saying. Like, that's what I be wanting to tell them. You're spending so much money on a baby shower.
Girl, I was also say I was frugal. I understood. I was trying to make more money in gifts than what I was giving to the people.
Heck, I'm rich.
But that's another topic. These people be having like 30,000 baby showers and only got like $2,000 worth of gifts or something. I mean, just like for the price difference. But you know, like, we didn't have to pay for anything. Everybody bought everything for our baby shower. I didn't know how much diapers were until he was like 2.5.
Same.
Yeah.
Blessed.
But anyway, back on topic.
Yes. Yes. What question were you about to ask?
Oh, so yes. Okay. So midwives in the hospital. So we talked about we get a bad rep, but I think a lot of people don't realize the importance of having midwives in the hospital. What is your take on it?
So I actually recommend if I have someone reach out to me and they're like, hey, do you know any midwives and that deliver here or providers? And I'll say you might want to check out a midwife. Yeah. And I say that because I feel like a midwife, for layman's terms, is a OB that has a doula like half and half. Yeah. Like they're the ones that, I don't want to say will hold your hands, but they're a little bit more welcoming. Yeah. Probably more holistic in a sense. Like, you're not going to just jump straight to medicine. Yeah. But technically the word on the street is that y'all are midwives and not midwives. Yes. Isn't it crazy?
So I had someone come at me real crazy on Instagram. I commented under somebody's post. It was a really nice post. And someone came at me and was just like, midwife, blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, okay, first off, not every midwife in a hospital is a midwife. And for people who don't know, midwife is like a very mean, derogative term for midwives in the hospital, basically saying like, you basically practice like a OB and you're not as caring and you're a fake midwife, basically. And so they came at me crazy and I was like, I don't practice like that. And they were like, well, just because you're a rainbow. And I was like, I would like to think I'm not a rainbow, like, or like a unicorn. I'm not a unicorn. Like, I would like to think there are other midwives like there. I know personal midwives who are out there like that. But yeah, we get the term midwife if we work in a hospital, and that's because of certain hospitals, right? So certain hospitals have different policies, and they're really up your butt if you don't do certain things at a certain time.
Up your butt.
Trying to keep it professional. But as a midwife in the hospital, you do a lot of fussing. Like, and a lot of fussing and advocating, like, no, I don't think that we should do that. I think she needs more time. And that's if you're practicing as a midwife. Now, if you're practicing as a midwife, then you are doing certain things, you know, and things are happening. C-sections are probably happening a little faster and things like that. But if you are practicing as a midwife, you are mentally going through it in these hospitals.
Because it's hard being a good, like, I feel like y'all are supposed to be the good guys, but it's like, I'm still doing my job.
Yeah. Like, and so we're nice, and then we have to yell at people sometimes. Like, if you don't push this baby, I can't do my job, and you're going to the OR.
No, seriously, straighten up, get it together, and push this baby
Tighten
up.
up.
Please do that. So I have a question, and my question, of course, with being a hospital midwife, how is the relationship with you and OBs?
Yeah.
Because the OBs are so much like, you know.
Yeah. So the OBs I work with, the ones you actually personally work with, I feel like for all of us, we have that relationship with our personal OBs. It's when we start crossing over with other OBs that we have to kind of learn certain things. So like, for example, we do call coverage. So we have a set doctors that we work with our practice, but we could be on a certain day where the other practice doctor is on. So they're the ones covering us and they're in charge of us basically, right? So if anything happens or I need to give off report off to a different doctor than what I'm usually working with. So the issue may come across where they may practice different or they may have a different time limit than my personal doctors. And so that's when, you know, it's not a bad relationship, but you have to kind of speak up more and let them know, like, no, I know how to handle this. I'm good. But it's also good to make those relationships with those doctors. So if you make a relationship with your doctors and make a relationship with the doctors you know you're going to be with,
they're building that trust to understand that.
And so then they're kind of okay with how you practice, but you also understand, like, okay, they're a little jumpy on certain things, so don't press it too hard, kind of thing. Yeah.
I got another question for you.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about, because I know most people are hiring doulas because they understand that I might come to your office very often and I love you.
Yeah.
But you might not be on call.
Yeah.
So it's and this is where we have to educate the clients and say, yeah, you might build a really good relationship with that midwife that you have, but she might not be on call for your birth. Now, I feel like I kind of already know with you sometimes if a client delivers or you're not on call, you'll probably still and go visit. So I love that. And I love when I hear some of my clients that was like, oh my God, we had surgery. She didn't deliver us, but she came to visit me. Like, I love that. But how do you feel about that? Like having to be like, I'm your midwife, you see me some visit. And I know y'all rotate. So so you can actually meet. But it's like, I don't like none of those. I just want her to be my midwife.
I will say I envy Homebirth midwives because of that. Because I do have people who search and find me just and they're like, I want you. And when I first started with the practice I'm with, we were smaller, and so it was more of a chance that I could be available for them. But now that we're getting bigger, those odds are getting like more like further apart, and it's like, dang, I don't know if I'm gonna make it to see your delivery. And like early on, I did go up to people and like I would be on my off day. I would go and deliver to people. And that's the sacrifice. Like, you know, I'm not getting paid extra to come on my off day for you. I'm doing that out of kindness of my heart. But like, it does make me sad when people come and I have to tell them like, hey, I could not possibly, I might not be there for your delivery. And because I'm making that bond with them, but I try to be there for them in other ways. If I know for sure I may not be able to be there for the delivery, I try to make sure like, okay, well, here's my direct email message system. You can contact me. So I'll have people who will be like, hey, I think my water broke, and I'm not on call. I know I'm not about to be on call, but they're still letting me know things that are happening. And I'm like, okay, cool. This is what you should look out for, is when you should go. But I do wish I could have my own set of patients and be there for my own set of patients. So that does make me sad. But I do tell them, and if I have somebody who's like really adamant about it, I'm like, okay, I'll try to make it for you. Like, I'll try.
And I love it. And like I say, I already know your personality, and I do like when I have some clients and they were like, they couldn't make it, but they still came and saw the baby, or it'd be those the surprise births. And they're walking and be like, what did we have?
Yes.
And like I just so that's why I'm like some hospital midwives or even the OBs, like I mean everybody has to get their credit because this job is not for everyone. This is really, really hard. But it does take into play of having to build a certain type of relationship and wanting that one person. Which of course that's the main thing that we do. Like,
and that's scary.
It is.
You like going through birth and you build a bond with one person, or like, and I mean, naturally you want to build a bond with one person, not 12 people. And then to go into a birth and it's like, okay, who am I gonna have? Or it may not even be the 12 people you met. It may be somebody from a whole nother practice. Different. So I can understand the anxiety people have because with my own birth, the doctor who, like, I had a midwife. The midwife I work with now, actually, she was my midwife. But one of the doctors who ended up being with me as well, who ended up doing my C-section, I only met him like the week before. And so, you know, I knew he was good based off of our encounter, but like, I just met you, you're a man. Like, you know, it was just a lot going on. So like, I can definitely empathize with the patients. Like, it's a lot to ask of them to be a part of a call group versus like one person at home. Like,
another question.
Yeah.
Do y'all have any male midwives?
No.
Okay.
I felt in my class when I graduated, there was one.
Okay. One was in my. Was in mine. Yeah.
But I've never encountered one.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a. I can't think of his name right now, but I think we met on. Me and him met on. Never mind. I think we met on TikTok. That's so funny. We met on TikTok. I feel like I gotta say it, and then I'm just gonna let him know. I think we did meet on a dating app. But we didn't match because we liked each other. Yeah. I think we matched because we had the same feel. So it was like, oh my God. So yeah, it was one of those. It was
like an interesting.
Yeah. So you know, all dating apps, you don't got to date, but sometimes it just be for friendships or hey, I'm new to the city, I never met anybody. So it was that one, okay, guys. But yeah, and he's a black midwife out here. Wow. He gone viral a couple of times on TikTok.
I need to
I'm gonna reach out to him, so he gotta come on the podcast.
I need to know what his life is. I need to hear some stories.
Yes, but and I only asked that because when you were like the man that did your C-section was a guy, and I was just like,
you see a lot of male OBs, but not like midwives. Yeah. That's another story.
Yes. So I'm gonna have to reach out and find him and be like, we gotta come.
Okay. My other question for me, and then I think our episode, we might have to close this episode. Yeah.
That's why I kept looking down. I'm like,
Okay, last question then. Would you ever consider doing a hospital birth, or is like home birth your end goal forever?
So let me tell you, the answer is yes. Okay. Absolutely. 100%.
Okay.
I feel like there was a little birdie going around saying that CPMs may be coming to the hospitals because...
Like being forced?
No, not being forced. It's just because hospital staff is so short.
Oh, yeah.
It's very, very short. It's short. A lot on, not even in the labor and delivery, but everywhere.
Yeah.
Now I did hear this a little while back ago, but it kind of makes sense in a way. Because technically we are still doing what y'all are doing.
Yeah.
Still do the same thing.
I guess we did. Let's pause on that. We never said the difference between the two. So
okay.
I'm a certified nurse midwife.
Yes.
So I was a nurse before, and then I just got my master's in midwifery. So I've always been in the hospital setting. And then...
So I am a midwife. I am not certified yet, but I'm going the certified professional midwife way. So I just have to sit for the norm.
Okay.
And then I will be considered a CPM.
Okay. So then going back into that, yes, I know you guys do exactly what we do. So, I mean, I think I'm one of those, I don't know, is a new generation or just newer thinker midwife, but I mean, I don't have any problem with home birth midwives and CPMs. As long as everything's safe and, safe and healthy mom and no harm is going on, I don't see any issue with it.
Because we have the same protocol. It's like really, really the same protocol between all midwives, and that is to do no harm.
Yes.
That's the main one there.
Yeah. And then, I mean, if you go through the history of midwifery, like back in London and the UK and things like that, they weren't nurses before.
Yep.
They got training by other midwives. But that's a whole nother episode too.
Yes. This is good. I hope y'all enjoyed this.
Yeah. Oh, wait, you didn't answer the question. So you're coming to the hospital?
If they allow CPMs, I would not mind doing rounds. Like, absolutely. I would not. I would, because I feel like I want to get in the field of, I like high pace. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes I'd be like, oh my gosh,
I
like,
need
where
to
are my
slow
clients?
down.
So let's talk opposite. Is you coming to Homebirth? Like, what are you? Let's do a Freaky Friday and switch places.
Oh my gosh, I'd be.
We should do an episode.
Kaci, I don't know what to do. That's why.
You would know exactly what. No, you would be like, Kaci, I'm bored. I'm over here reading a book or whatever. No, let me not say bored.
Oh my god.
But you know, it's so relaxed. But I feel like I am kind of the one that fast paced. I like fast paced. So
I could see Homebirth in my future. I do crave that one person, like, you know, like my set of clients kind of thing. I do crave that. So I don't know. It's still all up in the air.
I think we can close out on that. I like that. That was a good one. So, but once again, if we were to do a Freaky Friday and we could just like switch places,
oh my gosh,
that would be pretty cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a Freaky Friday. So, all right, so we're gonna close out. This is Kaci Vibes.